There was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. So Abram said to Lot, "Please, let there be no strife between you and me." My name's Arthur. Thank you for joining me as we read in Genesis chapter 13, more of the story of Abram, who became Abraham. The story of Abram is important because he is a great man of faith, and faith is more precious than gold and silver. We see how that faith developed as the Lord spoke to him and as he responded to the situations of life. He had been in apparently a wealthy and important person, but then he realized that the God he was worshipping was not omnipotent, and so he sought the omnipotent God and began to worship the God of creation. The God of creation called him to leave that city and country and to leave his family, and promised to take him to a land and show him a land. And when he got there, the Lord told him he would give that land to his descendants. But this was early in Abram's journey, and when things got tough in the land, a severe famine, he went down to Egypt and lied about his wife. The motivation was good. He wanted food for his servants and for his livestock. But he had not trusted God to provide in the drought. So we'll read today's episode, Genesis chapter 13. Then Abram went up from Egypt, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him, to the south. Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver and in gold, and he went on his journey from south as far as Bethel, to the place where he had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to the place of the altar which he had made there at first. And there Abram called on the name of the Lord. Lot also went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents. Now the land was not able to support them, that they might dwell together, for their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. The Canaanites and the Perizzites then dwelt in the land. So Abram said to Lot, "Please, let there be no strife between you and me, and between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brethren. Is not the whole land before you? Please, separate from me. If you take the left, I will go to the right, or if you go to the right, then I will go to the left." And Lot lifted his eyes and saw all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as you go toward Zoar. Then Lot chose for himself all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated from each other. Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelt in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent even as far as Sodom. But the men of Sodom were exceedingly wicked and sinful against the Lord. And the Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, "Lift your eyes now and look from the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, and westward. For all the land which you see I give to you and your descendants forever. Now I will make your descendants as the dust of the earth, so that if a man could number the dust of the earth, then your descendants also could be numbered. Arise, walk in the land through its length and its breadth, for I give it to you." Then Abram moved his tent, and went and dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and built an altar there to the Lord. And may the Lord bless these words to us. So Lot had stayed very close to Abraham. They were both worshippers of the God of creation, and they shared this together, and so they found support with each other. But God had blessed them both with great wealth, livestock and gold and silver. And so trying to live together in the Judean hills, as they later became known, became very difficult. And so Abram says, we shouldn't be squabbling. Our herdsmen shouldn't be squabbling. We need to sort this out. So he offered Lot the opportunity to move wherever he wanted to in the land, and he would go the other direction. All he was asking was that they not keep under each other's feet. We need to have a degree of independence when there is territorial strife, and it's not wrong to make that kind of separation. But the opportunity of separation did provide a problem for Lot, as we shall see. Lot looked around, and there he could look from the hills of Bethel over onto the Jordan plain. And this plain at that time was luscious. The cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were the main cities on that plain, but we're told that at this time the men of Sodom were wicked against the Lord, exceedingly wicked and sinful against the Lord. In other words, Lot chose to live in a place that was materially very good. He thought this would be a lovely place to live, but it is full of wickedness, and that wickedness would be a problem for him. Indeed, one can see a parallel here, because in the end Lot would end up with nothing other than 2 daughters. He would lose all his possessions because of the choice he made, and because God would judge Sodom and Gomorrah. Although Lot witnessed to them, none of them repented. And it will be, we're told by Paul in Corinthians, that there will be Christians who, having lived their life as Christians, have built for wood, hay and stubble, and their works will be tested by fire and burned up. They will be saved as of by fire. Their salvation will be like Lot's salvation. They had to leave everything behind. They will live, but their lives will count for nothing, which is very sad. Abram, he stayed in the land that the Lord had given to him. He stayed living amongst the people of the land, but not uniting himself to them. The countryside in which he lived was much harsher and harder, the hill country. Eventually he moved south. In one sense, Lot went down to the plain. Abram went up the hill. Hebron is higher than Jerusalem. And he moved from around Bethel and Ai to the city of Hebron. And so Hebron remembers to this day that it was the city of Abraham. Just one final note. We found in the previous chapter that Abram had gone down to Egypt, and there he'd been found out and kicked out and sent back to the land. When he comes back to Bethel, where he had previously built an altar to the Lord, and where he had called upon the name of the Lord. He was told that he must separate from his family, all his family. So now he has separated from Lot. The Lord speaks to him yet again and confirms the covenant that God has made. I will make your descendants as the dust of the earth, so that if a man could number the dust of the earth, then your descendants also could be numbered. Arise, walk in the land through its length and its width, for I give it to you. So this in a sense is a picture of repentance on Abram's part, recognising he had made the wrong decision in not trusting the Lord, and coming back to the Lord to worship the Lord in the land that God had promised his descendants. When we do wrong, the Lord continues to support us, but we need to come back to him in repentance and worship him in the place that he's appointed for us. And so the Lord said to Abram, lift your eyes and look from the place where you are, north, south, east and west, for all the land which you see I give to you and your descendants forever.